There's just a few things I want to point out before you get into the literature this week. This week we have Araby and we also have the Cask of Amontillado. These are two of my favorite stories, and they pair perfectly with the idea of psychoanalytic criticism. Also, very timely is the fact that we've kind of talked about literary conventions or aspects. So, when we get into this, the first thing that we're looking at in both of these stories is the narrator. We have an unreliable narrator who is telling us the story. So, as far as Araby goes, the story is being told by a very young boy who doesn't really understand things or how the world works. And he's giving the impression of this beautiful girl that he's turned into a symbol and going to this market, which he's just made into this fantastic idea. And then the second story, the Cask of Amontillado, we have the Montresor, who is also very unable to see his own monstrosity and is so busy trying to justify it as he's telling the story of triumph, I guess, and trying to paint it in a way that makes him look noble. He's trying to retain his nobility. So both of these stories are about like a concept of desire and disappointment. Both in Araby, and you'll see exactly where the disappointment comes, specifically manifesting in the very last, very potent line, last line of the story, where we have a narrator have an epiphany and suddenly understand, see himself fully, and all of the work that the story has done up to that point really come home with that one last line. So really pay attention to how everything kind of stacks and builds to that. It's very rich in detail and very purposefully done. And then, of course, in Poe, you have the desire to have this revenge, and this 50 years later, he's still talking about. So I'm not certain that he actually got the peace of mind that he was looking for. So there is a lot of symbolism in both of these, and I want you to really think about the OER, specifically suggesting why describe this thing in detail instead of something else. And consider that both of these writers are masters. Joyce and Poe are very specific in the things that they are detailing and the way that they are describing them. They're building they're building so much thickness within this plot, utilizing these images and descriptions, that it really does work quite a bit. Um, all right, so with Araby, really pay attention to both the setting as well. You see a lot of images in the very beginning of it. The house where the priest died, the blind street, the detached house. All of these different things that the boy's imagination wants to kind of move beyond to escape. And also pay attention to how the boy describes the girl. She's a very flat character. She is a symbol. She almost becomes an icon. She's something that is to be possessed. And it's not really about him attaining the girl, but him imagining the world of what he would be in a world where he possesses her. And so that's kind of interesting. So as Araby moves on and you get the journey and you get the disappointment, and the pacing is very specific too. It's almost cruel to the boy, and you can see it psychologically working on him. The Cask of Amontillado, the very first line, the thousand injuries of Fortunato I had borne as I best could, but when he ventured upon insult, I had vowed revenge. We never find out what that insult is, right? We have to trust the narrator with his "trust me, bro, this is justified" kind of ethos, false ethos. We never really find out what it was all about. And so that's kind of a problem. Even Fortunato's name is kind of ironic considering what happens to him. And the carnival setting, setting is everything with these two stories. The carnival setting where you have like this time of like licensed transgression. For this amount of time, we're going to let morality slip a little bit. And Montresor's like, well, what? I can let my morality slip a little bit during carnival. Oh, hold on to your hat. Literally, Fortunato loses his hat, by the way. Fortunato dressed up like a jester, dressed up like a fool, and he's getting fooled. So, all of these stories, all of the subjects within the stories, the descriptors, are extremely specific, and they're really doing a lot of heavy lifting as we start to move into this. And also just consider how these images, how the narrators are speaking, what details they're giving, how they're presenting their case as rhetoricians, as they're trying to convince the listener of these stories, and maybe even consider specifically in the Cask of Amontillado, who is the Montressor talking to? Why would he be telling this story? So there's a lot here in regards to what we looked at earlier with the various literary conventions. And then there's also a lot as we start to think about the psychoanalytical criticism and how these stories might open themselves up to different interpretations. So, two of my very favorite stories. I really hope that you